This underground room stays at 55 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. No electricity, no fuel, no moving parts. It stores food for months, sometimes an entire winter, without a single dollar in operating costs. Right now, the average American family spends over $150 a year just to keep a refrigerator running around the clock. And the EPA says that same family throws away almost $2,900 a year in food that spoils before they eat it. Your great-grandparents didn't have that problem. They had something better. And you've never been told about it. Not because it failed, because no one could attach a meter to it. It starts with a technology so old that Iron Age civilizations were already using it thousands of years ago. Underground food storage is not a modern idea that got forgotten. It is one of the oldest technologies on Earth. Archaeologists have found underground storage facilities dating back to the Iron Age. The Etruscans buried their wine underground before Rome was an empire. By the 17th century, English farmers had developed the walk-in root cellar, and when colonists arrived in the Americas, they built them everywhere. Through the 1950s, the root cellar was still as common on Midwestern farms as the barn itself. In Elliston, Newfoundland, a town of just 308 people, researchers from Memorial University documented 135 root cellars. Some date back to 1839. More than half are still in working condition today. One resident stored 6,000 pounds of potatoes in a single cellar to feed a family of 17 through the winter. No electricity, no packaging, no waste. The science is simple. Below the frost line, typically 4 to 10 feet down, the Earth holds a nearly constant temperature year-round, between 50 and 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Think of the ground as a giant thermal battery. In Kansas City, the air hits 100 degrees Fahrenheit in summer and drops below 20 degrees Fahrenheit in winter. 6 feet underground, it is 55 degrees Fahrenheit in July and in January, every single day. A root cellar is just a room that sits inside that stable zone. It does not generate cold. It does not consume energy. It uses what the ground already provides for free. The numbers are hard to argue with. A basic above-ground version, a buried barrel insulated with straw, costs under $200. A proper underground build runs $5,000 to $15,000. One documented project, a 12 by 16 foot concrete room dug into a hillside, cost $5,000 total. 20 years later, it holds between 50 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. $0 in operating costs. Not a single replacement part. Not one service call. The average refrigerator costs $80 to $150 a year in electricity, and it never turns off. It runs every minute of every day until it wears out, usually in 12 to 15 years. Then you buy another one for $1,000 to $2,500 and start over. Over 30 years, between purchase costs and electricity, you will spend $5,000 to $8,000 keeping a single appliance running. A root cellar built for the same money in year 1 is still working in year 30, and year 50, and year 100. But here is where it gets personal. In 2025, a report from the EPA found that the average American wastes $728 per person per year in food that spoils before they eat it. For a family of 4, that is $2,913 every year. That is 11% of their entire food budget gone. And 80% of Americans throw away perfectly good food because they misread an expiration label. The food was fine. They just did not have a place to keep it cool long enough. A root cellar keeps potatoes viable for 4 to 8 months, carrots for up to 6 months, apples for 2 to 4 months. Canned preserves and fermented foods last even longer, all without drawing a single watt. So if it works, if it is this cheap, and if your grandparents already had one, why did it disappear? Nobody banned the root cellar. There was no law, no executive order, no hearing. What happened was simpler than that, and in some ways worse. After World War II, rural electrification brought power lines to every farm in America. With electricity came the refrigerator. Suddenly, every household had a machine that stored food without walking outside, opening a heavy door, and hauling vegetables up a hill. It was convenient. It was modern. And for the first time in the history of food storage, it came with a monthly bill. The root cellar didn't get replaced because it stopped working. It got replaced because it didn't generate revenue. Once people stopped building them, the system simply filled in around their absence. Building codes to treat root cellars as a gray area. They are not usually listed among typical projects, yet they often still require permits that cost $1,200 to $2,000. No trade association lobbies for root cellars. No manufacturer sells a kit at any hardware store. The mortgage appraisal system does not add value for an underground room with no electrical hookup. When a solution does not generate recurring revenue, no industry forms around it. When no industry forms, no lobby protects it. When no lobby exists, no building code accommodates it. And eventually, people forget it was ever there. If you're building a new home or renovating, this is the time. A proper root cellar needs 2 vents, one low for intake and one high for exhaust. It should have a gravel or earth floor to maintain humidity, a shaded entrance, and at least 4 feet of soil coverage. Many counties exempt structures under 100 to 200 square feet from permits, especially in rural areas where they classify them as agricultural sheds. If you rent or are not ready for a full build, start smaller. A buried food-grade barrel with straw insulation and a drainage base costs under $50, and it keeps root vegetables viable for months. If you have a basement, even better. Box off an unheated corner with a partition wall, insulate it with 2-inch rigid foam board, hang a solid door, and run a 4-inch vent pipe from near the floor to an exterior wall for intake, and a second one near the ceiling for exhaust. Total materials run $150 to $300. Leave the floor as bare concrete or gravel so ground contact regulates temperature and humidity naturally. A thermometer and a pan of water are the only monitoring you need. One honest limitation. Root cellars do not replace your fridge for dairy, meat, or short-shelf items. They handle root vegetables, apples, preserves, fermented foods, and beverages. They work best in cold winter climates. In the South, you need deeper excavation and heavier insulation. But for what they store, nothing beats them. And nothing is cheaper to run. There is no supply chain behind a root cellar. No one profits when you build one. No company sends you a bill to keep it running. That is not an accident. The Environmental Protection Agency says American families waste almost $2,900 a year in food that spoils before they eat it. A room that your great-grandparents built with shovels and stone, a room that kept working for a century without a single repair, could start cutting into that number immediately. A lot of what this channel covers was nearly lost. Not because it stopped working, but because it stopped being profitable. If that bothers you, subscribe. There is a lot more coming. Next video, we are looking at a heating system that uses no fuel and no electricity, and was standard in Roman homes 2,000 years ago. The building industry does not want to talk about it. We will. Your great-grandparents stored food for an entire winter in a room made of dirt and stone. You are paying $3,000 a year to throw food away. The technology didn't fail. The system just stopped rewarding it.